Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be having a look at my first omnibus released today, which serves as a prequel to the Diamond Dimensions series. It contains the Cave series of books, the Diamond Dimensions Origins, as well as many short stories. So I'm just going to jump right in. I don't really know how long this video will be. I guess you already know. But yeah. The omnibus starts with the short story The Power of Atom, which was fun to expand on the Watcher's Egyptian backstory, mentioned in Origins, and yeah, sort of getting to the Egyptian mythology, writing about Ramesses VIII. And it was unknown to me at this time that he could return and that the story would have wider ramifications other than just serving as a backstory. I have fond memories of writing the short story from volume 4.5. I was actually on a school camp when I was doing it. I remember I was going to name each of the 5 first Watchers after our kite surfing instructors, but I changed that in the end, obviously. But yes, it was a fun way to kick off the timeline of the whole universe, really, and delve into some things a little bit like in Rick Riordan's Egyptian series that I was fond of with the Egyptian gods, and work on a proper backstory. The next in this omnibus is The Cave, Volume 1. This all started because my dad wanted a piece of the action, you could say. He was very proud, I suppose, and saw the success of my Diamond Dimensions books, and also being an avid writer himself, wanted to give it a try, so he came up mainly with this volume, his own original idea, but worked on with me. I edited through it and linked it into my universe with the appearance of Saskia, the Watcher of the Emerald Dimensions, that first appeared in the Diamond Dimensions Origins, The Watcher, which was written around the same time as this first Cave volume. I was still just beginning planting the seeds for all of the prequel events in my mind at this point, and so Jint's, only mentioned in Origins as Mara's predecessor, makes his first appearance, as does my concept of the Emerald Dimensions, Pocket Dimensions. So yeah, alongside the Diamond Dimensions, there's obviously this whole other set of dimensions, the Emerald Dimensions, which we'll explore a bit more in the cave. It has these 4 pocket dimensions, and in a way, the story of the imagination in this, when they go to the rainforest, is linked to Tropicraft in a sense, that I then decided could be an Emerald Dimension later, Tropicraft being a mod explored by Dan in Season 2 of his videos, but obviously in my universe, that's him travelling to another set of dimensions completely. The next in the omnibus is The Floor is Lava, which was something original I wrote for this omnibus. I felt it was only right to include something new, as well as things being re-edited, such as the earlier volumes in the second omnibus, but I felt it only right to include something new for people who may have already bought some of the books, but this way they're still getting something new, some sort of incentive. So this short story takes place between Volume 1 and 2 of The Cave, as you could have guessed, and it was just to get a feel really for me, but for how the characters are progressing between the 2 books, get the story straight in my head, and to pull some threads together as I was proofreading through the rest of the Cave series to tie more of a complete story, more of a coherent story to those volumes. The Cave Volume 2 was an idea we actually came up with more together, exploring another pocket dimension where time was changeable. But I linked it in with a bigger plot and the wider universe in the way that the machine that used part of a destroyed monolith that had been created by an evil Watcher, which was a sort of a new concept. And it was the first time chronologically that we were introduced briefly to the Watcher's Hall, and retrospectively to Malek's plan, in a way. And also to Netherite, as I worked that in Volume 3, that his structure where the machine is housed is actually created of Netherite, which of course hadn't even been conceived of, even by the Minecraft devs at the point of writing Volume 2. But yeah. Volume 3 of The Cave was another shared concept between me and my father for a pocket dimension. Labyrinth seemed to come up a lot in the universe, but we took on the idea with the hands and the topiary animals that my father came up with and worked that in, and the plot a bit more from me, that Saskia was captured by this evil Watcher Malek, And that was when I really decided on his plan and fleshed out a bit of the concept of wraith dreams that had appeared briefly in earlier volumes of Dumb Dimensions where Mara appeared to Dan and I was still deciding the mythology. And it also paved the way more with Jints in that volume 3. And just a little note, the topiary animals in the maze, they're more African animals, they're lions and elephants, in a way to link to the Lion King dimension, the Pride Lands, which I worked in as another emerald dimension. Volume 4 of the cave, the shadow creatures were an original concept by my dad that I then worked in, and the idea for the illumination pocket dimension actually came from, I think that's called the Somber Scanner, or the Somber Scanner, a game played by Jacksepticeye that I watched, where in that game you map out a cave through where you look with the scanner and it does the colours. So I really like that concept, show it to my dad, and we worked that in as an idea of, a magical essence to another pocket dimension. But the main goal of this volume, released earlier this year actually, was just to finish up the story. And I ended up taking more control of the story in that way because it became more of a prequel to Origins and the whole universe to the conclusion to the cave, but I'm happy as it served as both. In this volume 4 of the cave, I finally got to explore what happened to Jints, which I was being alluded to in Origins, and I had a rough answer for, but I actually got to flesh out, and the stuff with Joshua and the mythology of Limbo and things from later books. Yeah, so that concludes this little section on the cave series. Next in the Omnibus is Origins, which, coming back to this, I'm still super happy with it, and when I read through, I just found myself getting into it again, and amazed that this was sort of the point where the whole universe widened outwards after just writing 2.5 at the point I actually started writing Origins of the Diamond Dimensions series. This Origins book really opened up the universe of concepts and characters and ideas, and I created this whole concept of the Watcher's Hall, the whole order, all the original characters, worked in the Dimensional Doors mod from the mid-season of the Diamond Dimensions Season 1. And so I was writing at the same time as Mara properly appeared to Dan in Volume 3, answered lots of questions, and just really happy with how it sets up the whole backstory, how it reads, how it introduces the zombie apocalypse and Imelda as well, and all these various other sets of dimensions, and it just, defines this whole fictional universe, really. Severed Connections, the next in the Omnibus, is a short story written at the time of Watchers 4. It was for Part 2, the collection of chapters 3 and 4 of the Watchers series. So it was a little 2-book collection with an extra short story. And this short story is a Marcus short story. I wanted to explore him and go back and expand on his backstory and get in my head the proper timeline of him and Jints and Joshua and Mara before writing Cave 4 at this point. And explain why he places the burn of 7 dimensions on her when she's just becoming a Watcher. So it worked in with Jints' ideas and Jints' mythology that then had more of a play in the Watchers series. And then retrospectively in the Cave 4 in chronologically. Don't know if that made sense. Let's hope so. The next short story is from volume 4.5, which happens as well in the timeline of Origins, because that book takes place over hundreds of years, really. But the main chunk of it is probably over 150 years. I don't know, I'd have to look at my notes to work that out. But When Fire Broke Out is a Rana short story, and I was in 4.5. I was glad, and it was good to. It was fun to allow me to tell original stories linked in with the Origins timeline of the zombie apocalypse and stuff, with supporting characters from the main series. So I could explore Rana in her light state, and why she became more distant to the Dryads and the Spriggans. More of just something you were blessed to see, rather than someone you worked with in such a way. And also the Tauran mythology of the shaman and the staff. And then this short story laid the way for the next short story and some events the next Rana short story in Legacies, and some of the events in volumes 7 and 8, obviously. And retrospectively, to work backwards and set up that backstory was very, very good, I think. And also later tying into the whole thing of spirits of the Diamond Dimensions and their spirit artifacts for the ones that would save the dimensions. The next 4.5 prequel short story is Cubebots Attack even, and this is a Pigman short story set in the Diamond Nether, so it was a chance to tell a story with Father Pigman from his point of view, and also I introduced the character of Naught, who Father had only mentioned later in the timeline to Dan in Volume 3 of the Diamond Dimensions. So also a little bit more of a look into the Pigman-human conflict mentioned in the Diamond Dimensions Origins, and also flesh out more of the idea of these Nether Cube bots as they've been mentioned in Origins. The next short story on this omnibus is The Library. It was just a short bonus for the Watchers Part 1, the collection of the two short books, chapters 1 and 2. And it just gave me a chance to, I just wanted to, it's not really that long of a short story at all, just sit down and describe a library, all different types of books and stuff. So in the Earth Library, spend a little time with Casper, carrying out his mission to give the Diamond Overworld Earth's history, discoveries and language. And in Origins, that event, it was a way to try and explain at the time why Dan knows like Earth songs and Earth sayings, and I think I edited it out, but like saying, oh my god, if in the Minecraft universe there isn't a god, then why does Dan mention these things? Because he's human. But in the Iron Overworld, it's explained that it's because a Watcher of Earth, which is actually a separate dimension, gave the history and altered the timeline of the Iron Overworld so that it's more like Earth, and they have the same songs like Hammer Time that Dan sings in Volume 3 and things like that. And also like Egyptian and earthly concepts. Don't know if I would have made that decision now, but I'm glad with the way it all turned out. The next short story is, I guess, quite a bit later in the timeline, well, so is The Library. Towards the end of Origins is The Lich, the Witch and the Portal, which is a play on the Narnia title, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. There's a chance to explore and flesh out my version of the Twilight Forest mythology and history, which I'm really proud of how that all turned out in general, from writing Volume 4 and obviously 4.5 between writing Volume 4 and 5. And in this case, to see Imelda in action after the events of Origins. And it also helped tie into future stories I didn't know how I was going to write. I didn't know I'd even write them. Such as Misadventures way down the line and some legacy short stories. But it served to give context to Volume 4 in the way that I'd alluded to Imelda being in the Lich's Tower and the Urgas Dark Tower. And also to some stuff I knew was coming up in Season 2, like with the goblins of the Twilight Forest. This was actually this was going to be the last short story in this omnibus, but I'd originally planned it to be 5 because I wanted, the Watchers. There are 5 sets of dimensions, there are 5 Watchers, 5 parts of the Egyptian soul, and liking patterns and stuff like that, I thought it was only fitting there'd be 5 omnibuses. But I think it really works better as 4, this one serving as a complete prequel. So, to make the length a bit more balanced, I added in the rest of the 4.5 short stories which take place in the Iron Overworld with Dan and the characters we're familiar with. I added them to the end of this omnibus, as they do take place before Volume 1 of the Diamond Dimensions. The first of these short stories is The Creeper, which was a chance to explore Dan's backstory, explain a little his sword skills, because I think I'd alluded to it maybe slightly once, but this was a chance to say, why is this YouTuber, adventurer, scientist guy, how did he learn to be so good with a sword that he just crafted? And fencing lessons seemed like a good way to answer that. And it was really a good chance to also tie into Dan's real life story, and with his brother, his parents, Gemma, but obviously taking place in the Iron Overworld, so my own spin on Dan's real life. I suppose it's a bit weird, but to work into my own mythology. So yeah, it was interesting to combine his real life with fictional, if not too personal. But it paved the way at the time for Gemma's appearance in later books, and misadventures obviously down the line if you've read that book. The last in the series, sort of, and then ties back to this first appearance of Dan when he's a child in this story. The next 4.5 short story in this omnibus is A Trace of Mom. Obviously that's the American spelling, as I decided Traorus would be more Americanized, even though in the Diamond Overworld there is no America in UK. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. As with the others, it was a chance to explore a character's backstory on 4.5. That's sort of, it's an origins books of all these other characters without having to write their own books. I didn't want to just novelize Dr. Traorus' Draw My Life, even though I've taken a lot of inspiration from it with my own fictional universe. But neither did I want to really dive into the Traorus meets the Witch video, whatever it's called, Traorus and the Witch, where we're introduced to his mother first before Dan then retrospectively made Trey's Draw My Life. But I just used these concepts of these videos to create an original story in the timeline before Traorus has met Dan, and flesh out that story and a bit of the lab mythology location, also hinting to Denton and the possibility that maybe he's related to Traorus. Dum dum dum. The next short story is Moving Day, which it is a very short story again, just taken from the How I Met Traorus video. It was another bit of context for Dan's life, how he went from the real life man to this fictional version of himself in my timeline of events in my universe. So it sort of explored, as well as how he came to know Traorus, how he came before he moved towards the lab, but also how he went from, the real life Dan in our real life Earth, the man that married Gemma that's just doing this on YouTube and gaming, to then work into the fictional Dan that the books are actually about, that lives at a lab in a more magical and technologically advanced world. So it's like a stopping off point where he left his normal-ish life. He made a decision that changed his life as it would have been if he would have just stayed on and married Gemma. He left to get away, stay in this cabin, and then move to the lab. So that's my way of explaining all of that. But I'm happy with how that story turned out as well. That was the first time really novelizing a video, just typing up the speech and exactly what happens on camera, which I then did later on with Misadventures and some other short stories as well in Legacies. Yes, there's Grimm's Adventure is the next short story, I think, in this omnibus. Another 4.5 short story. They're all 4.5 short stories. Again, linking into the another of Dan's videos, How I Met Grimm. But I didn't want to just novelize that, because in a way, I assumed people that read my books would, and I'd already mentioned it as well in the books, I'm pretty sure, would already know Grimm's origins in that way. But I just wanted to write an original story establishing him as a husky pre-accident. And it was fun, that story, to write from a dog point of view. So I even researched how to write, from a dog's point of view. It's all about smells and whatever. And to work in a bit with the lab surroundings, saying the jungle oasis is, this far away, and then the river comes down here. And it felt like just writing my own Dan TDM custom mod adventure, really, which was fun. A New Look is the last short story, I'm pretty sure, in this omnibus, and of 4.5 before the actual short stories, which do take place between Volume 4 and Volume 5. It's the last prequel short story, which was an insight into Denton's character. I was first introduced to Denton in the Insomnia Live kidnapping video, where Denton kidnaps Traorus, Denton being a Traorus lookalike as well. It's quite funny. And also in the Christmas countdowns, But in this story I wanted to establish why he's that way, again hinting to the Troilus relation, and sort of explain Denton's OG appearance in the Mutant Bugs mod, where he's just this assistant that's pretty rubbish at his job, and also help set up the time scale of things in the way that in my universe Dan goes, he goes to the lab when he started his channel, which is in 2012, even though videos at the lab weren't until 2013. So it's working in that he went there, he did this thing exploring mods, and then before he really committed to being a channel and a man living and staying over at the lab, he did this other thing with Denton. And then he got Grim for his birthday in 2012. He became then the skeleton dog later in 2013, when then we actually see him start appearing in videos. So it was 4.5 was really a way to tie all of Dan's videos and also facts from Dan's real life into a series of events before the Diamond Dimensions series begins, and I'm really happy with how that all turned out. I think that's it really. That brings us to the end of everything that's in the first omnibus. Don't know how well that video came out, if it's just more rambling, but I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, so volume 1 of the Diamond Dimensions, Harvey Hamer's Diamond Dimensions book universe omnibus, the volume 1 of it is out now. That was a really bad way of saying it, but check the description, there should be a link to take you to the Amazon page where you can buy it in either Kindle or paperback formats, or read for free with KDP Select. Thank you for watching.